And welcome to Thrift Shop Biography. This is the one about Pamela Anderson. Thank you for listening.
Hello, Cleo.
Hello, Richard.
How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks.
Good.
Because I've just been reading the autobiography of Pamela Anderson
Yes, you have. So have I.
called Love, Pamela.
She's famously now not wearing makeup anymore.
Yeah, although she is on the front of this book.
Yes. When was it published?
Only last year, I think.
No, it's quite new, is it?
Yeah. But like Sharon Stone, do you remember? No photographs
Yes, that's
inside.
right. Oh, because it's a novel. I'm going to say it's less of a novel than Sharon Stone's.
Yeah. But interesting,
Text.
two women who famously are extremely beautiful.
And known to be sort of sexual and really want their brains to be heard.
Don't put pictures in the
Yeah.
books because it's unusual not to have pictures
It
in
really
books. In
is.
fact, it's only these two and Jeanette McCurdy.
And Quentin Crisp.
Quentin Crisp had no
No
pictures in
pictures,
the book.
because it was a novel.
Yeah.
That actually was a novel. Mm-hmm.
So, Pamela Anderson, are you a fan?
I loved her in Baywatch. Why would you not love her in Baywatch? She was great. Everyone was great in Baywatch. Quality acting all through. Great stories. Brilliant scripts. No, I just loved Baywatch. It was great.
I know, but Neighbours is your favourite show.
Yeah, that's true.
So Baywatch is like real high culture for you.
That's true. Yeah, it's up a notch. I went to see Barbed Wire. That's it really.
So
she's
nothing
good.
over the last 30 years.
What's she done? Oh, I can answer that actually. I can answer that now. How about you?
I love her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I always have. I've always got that there was more to her than a pair of tits.
Yes. There's legs. No, I know what you mean.
More than just the exterior.
Yeah, of
I
course.
always got that she was very funny. I always got that she was very intelligent. I knew there was more to her.
Yeah, and I've seen her interviewed, and I've watched a documentary on her not too long ago when they were renovating her house. Did you see that? She's one of those people like Madonna. If she speaks, I'm probably going to listen. It's something about her. I just will always probably tune in. Don't know why. I think she's probably a really nice person.
I think so. I think
quite
she
interesting.
is. Yeah, and I don't feel any differently now I've read this book.
No, yes, there's no massive surprises.
Well, there's a couple of revelations. Shall we just dive straight in?
Hey, good one.
Oh, I didn't even know. Pamela Anderson, born in 1967 in
Yes, she's born in Ladysmith, British Columbia, otherwise known as BC.
Canada.
Canada, I just Googled it actually. It's Vancouver Island. So if you swam, she was right in the ocean. So if you swam out, you'd have to go around a few islands and then across a bit and you'd get to Vancouver. But if you walked down to the right from where she lives and get to the end, you're in Victoria. And then just across the ocean there is Seattle.
Fascinating.
Isn't it? Stop it. So you're actually very near America.
Yeah.
the
Canada is quite near America.
northwest tip. No, but it goes right across America. Shut up.
I felt quite jealous about where she lived when
Yeah,
she
sounds
grew up.
gorgeous.
Right on the cusp of the ocean.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Yeah.
A lovely upbringing.
Her mum and dad were young.
Yeah.
So her mum was 17.
Yeah, I just said a lovely upbringing. That's rubbish. She had quite a troubled childhood in a really lovely place.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, it's better than having a really troubled childhood in rundown inner city centre.
Yes, it is a lot better than that.
So her mum's 17 and her dad is 19.
Yeah.
And they're childhood sweethearts, but they're full of energy and mischief, and they crash a car when mum is pregnant with Pamela. I mean, she kind of says they were a couple of tearaways.
Yeah, they were really passionate. They fought, beat each other up. He was an alcoholic. Then they'd make up and she'd catch them snogging and up against the refrigerator, and it was like passionate, fiery. They left all the time. The mum up and left all the time. And even one point they left for a whole year, and then when the dad got their phone number, she betrayed her mum and told him where she was so he'd come and get them. And then said she saw how relieved her mum was, almost like she's waiting for him to come. They were together for the rest of their lives, and by the end of the book, it's always like mum and dad come to look after my kids, and they moved into my house, and they're just lifelong loves, and they calm down, and they're just like normal, nice, happy parents.
So they had a tempestuous relation. I hate calling relationships passionate and tempestuous when people are being physically violent.
Yeah,
to
and they're
each other.
making up a lot.
But they've stayed together for the longest time. Actually, Pamela has these kinds of relationships.
Yes,
actually,
without
doesn't she?
any doubt, they were the blueprint for her relationships without the happy ever after.
Yeah, right.
I just checked her marital status. About 2020, she married and annulled within like weeks or something, months.
Really?
And then she's since married and divorced again.
No.
Like 2 years ago. Yeah,
So she's not learning anything.
she keeps trying, doesn't she?
Wow.
I know, seriously.
So she just falls head first in love.
Yeah. I think she one of those textbook things where she confuses lust with love.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems to be it. But yeah, okay, so back to childhood and really pinpointing where it all starts is definitely her parents, but also her babysitter.
Oh, yeah, that's unpleasant.
Yeah, that's definitely really shaped her.
Yeah.
Female babysitter.
A female babysitter abused little Pamela Anderson.
Over a prolonged period of time, seemingly.
Yeah, well, I guess because she was a woman, I guess people don't suspect it as much.
No, and people never tell when they're kids because they don't understand it.
Yeah.
And so she doesn't go into details, but she says basically she was sexualised at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
And then by that time, she starts having boyfriends at school because that's what she now understands as a way of life.
Yeah.
And she always goes for the bad boys.
It's really quite difficult to read some of it because while she's young, like one night when she's 12, her and her friend go out together because her friend is going to meet some guys. Actually, these guys are older. They come in a car and they pick them up and they take them to their house. Pamela's friend goes upstairs with one of them, which leaves Pamela downstairs with a grown man at the age of 12, and he basically rapes her.
He does rape her. And she's 12. She's a blooming kid.
Yeah, and she says she was small for her age, so she looked 10.
Yeah.
There was no mistaking her for an adult.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And then, yeah, she's hanging out with these guys. There's this really horrible episode with, I think, her second boyfriend.
Well, yeah, her first boyfriend is what causes the second one because he's really violent. It's on, off. She's scared of him. You know, she said sometimes on the off days he tried to run over in the car or run her over and then he ripped her dress off that was too revealing or whatever, leaving her half naked. And this went on for years. They were on off for years. And the second bloke who came along was new in school, seemed like a gentle, safer option.
Yeah, where did they go in his car?
Oh, they went to pick something up, left her in the truck, and then when they all got back, they gang raped her.
Yeah.
6 of them.
Well,
she
she
passed
says
out,
she
blacked
blacked out.
But then she straight away says she didn't get her period till she was 18, and it's probably because of all the trauma. But therefore, pregnancy from these incidents wasn't an issue. That implies that was a gang rape, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah, she really didn't have a great start.
I know she didn't, and I'm just trying to think of now a nice tale from her childhood to counteract all of that. And all I can think of is when her dad drowned the kittens.
Yeah.
There's nothing nice.
I know. And she says, you know, her dad was violent and alcoholic and stuff, but she understands why, because she had really nice grandparents.
Yeah.
She really loved her grandpa, but her grandpa was really violent and alcoholic when he was younger and made her dad's life hell. So it's that cycle. So her dad was a nightmare then, and then she becomes a person who pursues terrible, terrible relationships and gets herself in all the wrong situations. Yeah. So it's just that complete cycle. I would like to hope she's broken that with her boys.
Oh, I think it sounds like she has, but we'll get there towards the end.
Yeah, we will, but in the cycle thing.
Talking of cycles, like when she's younger, actually a couple of other lifelong things get started now. One of them is her animal activism, because her dad's a hunter. And as a kid, she's eating food at the table that her dad has hunted, but she doesn't make the connection that that's animals. And then one day have a smokehouse that she's not supposed to go in. But one day, being a curious little kid, she went into the smokehouse and there was a big carcass upside down. She come face to face with the eye. And then all of a sudden it clicked in her head that the meat that they're eating is actually the animals that she sees out and about.
Yeah. And she's like, no.
And she feels completely betrayed by her parents.
But she says to her dad, I don't want you ever to go hunting again. And he doesn't.
But he did drown her cats.
Yes.
So, I mean, she's a huge animal activist and she has been her entire life. And that's where that begins, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm annoyed that there's no photos in this book because she says her mum is an absolute stunner and her dad is better looking than Elvis Presley.
Good Lord, we should be Googling this. Let's Google this after this. Okay. We'll stick the photo on Facebook.
I mean, in a way, Pamela Anderson's one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen.
She's got some Finnish and Russian in her.
But her mum would say to her, there's no such thing as a natural beauty. It would take an hour for her mum to get ready in front of the mirror. Her mum would say, you're more powerful if you're pretty.
Yeah.
So that's something else that's being instilled in her at an early age.
True. Because she did become powerful through being pretty.
Definitely.
But it also hampered people's respect for her. Maybe that's one of the reasons I would still pay attention to her, because there's millions of girls like her come and go. And she's the one who stuck it out and made something more of the opportunity.
She certainly did.
She stuck it out. She stuck it out.
You know what? Her dad is also incredibly intelligent, like Mensa level intelligent. It's not just looks she's getting from her parents. She has a brother, by the way, 4 years younger. And they used to get up. Well, she hid him one day, didn't she?
Yeah.
She hid him in a barrel, and even to the point where the parents lost their minds and called the police, and she still didn't reveal where he was. Okay. And then when they found out what had happened...
Yeah, because he came out and went, she told me to get there.
Dad hit Pamela with a belt. Now, there's a really odd sentence in this because she said that she would deliberately play up to get it. So she would wait for her mum and dad to go to bed. Then she would wake up, put the plugs in the sinks and turn the taps on and go back to bed. So she would flood the kitchen. She also said that one night she buttered the cat. And the reason she would do it, she said that when she was led in bed in the morning, she could hear her dad get up and then he would shout her name like, Pamela! And she said that she felt very excited when he called her name. Is that because she's going to get a beating?
Do you know what? Yeah, that's a messed up girl.
Yeah, isn't
that's
it?
Somebody's already, don't forget, if she's already been abused by the babysitter, she's got a lot of shame, anger, rage, confusion, and kids don't know how to express that. It's always the ones who play up at school and everything. Yeah. They've got a lot going on, and you can't necessarily clearly say, unless you're a psychologist, what that's, but it's messed up.
Yeah, and you know, she said that babysitter, when she was a couple of years older, she yelled at her, why don't you just fucking die or something? Yeah. And then she had a car crash and died. Did. So Pamela's like, wow.
Yeah. And what's worse is she's a really spiritual person. So she really believes in all that.
You know
stuff.
what? From quite a young age, she's reading Jung and all the psychologist books. I wonder if it's because of what you just said, that she knows that these things have affected her, and so she wants to figure out her own
self-analysing sort of thing. Well, yeah, but the pattern that she's followed of destructive choices, it hasn't worked.
So she's a good student, but she has no desire to go to further education. Basically because she's never known anybody that's gone to college. It's something that doesn't happen in her family. And her mum and dad said to her, okay, if you're not going to go to college, you have to pull your weight. We need rent. So she actually moved out and got a place of her own at the age of 17. I think she also moved out because she didn't want to be around her dad anymore. But she still kept on very good terms with her mum, and they both used to waitress at the Pancake House.
Yeah.
She does say that her mum is also very funny. And that I want to see photos.
Yeah, so do I.
But also, you know, it's a small town in Canada. She says that when she gets her first car, there's this pervy cop who keeps pulling her over and abusing his power. It's that awful thing about being pretty is actually dangerous. Yeah,
and also she grew breasts very young and they were very large. That doesn't help. And she was trained to be attractive, to not hide it. So, yeah.
And she just simply was.
Yeah, and she was very sexual. And that is going to attract more and more trouble, isn't it?
Then eventually she moves to Vancouver. She goes for life in the big city and she gets a job in a tanning salon. She quite quickly meets a man called Mike, who's a photographer who works at the local gym. And he asked her to marry him. And in her head, her grandmother always said to her, you have to be married before you're 25. So she says yes. And she actually quite liked being a fiancé. Because I guess that's what people do that come from that town.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think She has no aspirations of being an actor or model or anything at this point. She's just living her life.
Yeah.
I guess she's just gone to Vancouver because she wanted to get out of her town. But she hasn't gone there seeking fame or anything.
No, not at all. It's totally accidental what happened, and it's absolutely amazing. A friend said, do you want to come to a ball game? She didn't really want to go, ended up going. And that camera thing ends up on her, and she has to stand up and wave, sees herself on the big screen, and thought she looked really old and ugly.
Yeah, I hated that. So
It's very strange.
18-year-old Pamela Anderson sees her own vision on a screen and thinks she looks ugly.
Yeah. Nuts. And then she realises everyone's screaming for her, and then the organisers of the game come and pull her out so that she pulls the drawer with the number and she has to announce the number. From that moment on, they used her image for all the advertising for the game and stuff, and she just sort of became famous a bit within that. But
then from those
images being out there,
Labatt's Lager
that was the next thing.
Saw her and they offered her a commercial contract and to be on billboards everywhere.
Yeah.
And she said, only if my boyfriend Mike takes the photos. Not that he ever wanted to take a photo of her before.
Which is absolutely insane. I feel like Labatt's probably sponsored all of the Canadian ice hockey.
Okay.
I can sort of see that together. I don't know how, but I can.
Yeah, so she's now part of an advertising campaign. And then it's not long, because, of course, once upon a time, all of our names were in phone books. The phone rings at home.
Yeah.
And it's Playboy.
And they're saying, do you want to come for a test shoot? She's going, it's Playboy on the phone. And her fiancé, Mike, starts throwing cutlery at her head.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's not an ordinary nice person.
She has to flee. He doesn't want her to go.
No, he's really angry, jealous.
After that phone call, she has to go and stay at her friend's house.
Yeah, for her own safety.
This is, I tell you what, who have we just read? Esther Williams. Do you remember when she decided to take the Hollywood contract? Her husband went so mad, she had to run down the street. And actually, she stayed at a stranger's house and then never went back to her husband. Nope. This is happening to Pamela Anderson. Blimey.
Crazy, isn't it?
These men, they don't like it when their partners become successful.
Just they have to hold them down. They have to own them. They can't, they're jealous. And that's probably where the proposals come from all the time. She needs to be owned.
Yeah, right. So, my goodness, quite quickly from just going to a Canadian football game, she's got a test shoot with Playboy.
And not doing anything. It's not like she ever did a day's modelling or anything.
No.
She's just waving a foam finger or whatever. Yeah, she has a lot of trouble because she goes to the airport and says, I'm going to work at the Playboy match. And they go, have you got a visa? She's, damn. And then she went back in disguise and it was the same woman at a different airlines. Nice try. So anyway, she has to then go by land and sea. She gets there. She's very excited. She gets a limo dropping her off at the Playboy match. She describes the whole thing. And the first night she's just going to a party. And she said she's not really up on the who's who and what's what. But she's like, I think that's Cher.
There's Tony Curtis. There's James Caan. There's Rambo. It doesn't say Sylvester Stallone. That's so funny. Rambo.
Yeah, so she really is like this hick from the sticks. Is that a phrase?
It is now. Then Hugh comes down.
And she's bowled over by him. I can't imagine why, but I've only ever seen him old.
Well, I think he does. No, he has a reputation. But not everybody is anti the Playboy
industry. Not necessarily anti it, just...
She calls him the epitome of chivalry.
Yeah.
I imagine that he is, if you can get past the fact that he has a $1 trillion porn business and a harem.
Yes.
I think he probably is quite charming.
Oh, well.
In fact, I don't think you become Hugh Hefner if you're a pig to women.
No, and actually, having read this now, I've learned they really, really tried to protect the women, and it's really, really cracked down on if anybody, is going to pay to have sex or anything. They're thrown out, and they do everything they can to protect the women. She's really all for it and paints it quite well. You know what book I found recently? Crystal Hefner. It's behind you. I can't remember the title, but she was married to Hugh Hefner, and this is her expose. So she's going to tell a different story. Yes, she is. Sorry, can we just see what the title is? Yeah. It's the pink one there, Crystal Hefner. What's the title? Only Say Good Things. There you go. Only Say Good Things. Pamela Anderson is only saying good things about maybe there's Playboy. A contract. It's in the contract. Ooh. We need to read Crystal Hefner. Yes, we do. Okay. Wonder if she got sued. Oh, I don't know. Or if it's only good things in there. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, I mean, it does sound amazing. And also, I think she kind of gets into it. The grottos, the parties, women are all in lingerie, men are in bathrobes.
Also, let's not forget, she's 19. How old is she at this point?
Yeah, she is about that.
She's young, she's naive, she's a bit bowled over by the glamour of it all. I don't think she just went in there making mature decisions like, oh, here I am. I think it's a bit more like I've stepped into another world, a glamorous, exclusive world.
It's true. And she said that when they photographed her, the camera would say, oh, you're gorgeous, you look amazing, you're amazing. And she actually said, I felt my power coming back to me. That had been taken from her by the babysitter and those rape and all that horrible stuff. She felt empowered by the situation. That's fantastic. If whatever they did, if they could make her feel that, then that's all good.
It does seem like she is mostly surrounded by women at the Playboy Mansion. I mean, she meets Hugh Hefner, but everybody else she comes into contact with who works there, the makeup artists, the agents, the chaperone, everyone is a woman.
Yeah, it's true. And she says they ask her a couple of questions. What's your situation? She says, well, there's this bloke I was engaged to, but it wasn't going well. And she said she felt like they saw all through it and understood her and were on her side.
I imagine, I don't know why this is probably a stereotype, but I imagine quite a lot of women who end up at the Playboy Mansion probably had similar journeys.
I would imagine that too. And she said that from that moment on, they were her family. She felt like they protected her.
This first night where she meets Hugh, this other guy comes up and is bowled over by her and talks to her. And the chaperone, I forget what the lady's name is, intervenes and said, you're going to have plenty of time to meet Pamela. And it turns out that he's a big hotshot Hollywood producer called John Peters. And he's done Rain Man and Batman. And he's a multi-millionaire himself. But he kind of makes a beeline for Pamela, and quite soon, like very soon after moving to LA, well, actually, hang on, I'm jumping the gun a bit because they give her a bit of a makeover. They do the test shots and she gets the cover, right?
Yeah.
And then...
Centerfold.
Yeah. And then I think they basically say to her, Hugh loves you. Do you want to stay and be a playmate? And so she phones her mum and her mum just says, yeah, of course.
Go for it.
Yeah.
She's sad to lose her daughter, but she knows it's the right thing.
So she's staying in LA. I think she gets a tiny apartment. No, she might move straight in with John.
She does. She was going to be all independent. This bloke totally takes her in and buys her an apartment in Bel Air. Ronald Reagan was her next door neighbour. That's how fancy it is.
That is incredible. If you were like 19 from Hicksville, and 6 months earlier you were at a football
waitress
game, and then 6 months later you're living next door to Ronald Reagan in LA.
Yeah, she said it was Pretty Woman.
Yeah, it is Pretty Woman.
A Pretty Woman was a prostitute. She wasn't being a prostitute. There was nothing required from her physically, but apart from that, everything else is being owned. Which is fine, but it's a dangerous game because is he going to call in the chips at any point?
It is an odd situation in that I would just totally assume that, of course, there's a sexual relationship going on.
Yeah. She says there wasn't at all because then she met that bloke Mario and he said, she was like, no, there's nothing. He's never asked anything of me. And he said, yeah, but it's a dangerous game. And so she got out.
This is Mario Van Peebles, right? Who's an actor. Pamela had actually, on 21 Jump Street, which was a TV show back in the 80s, Pamela had actually been an extra on it for a day. Her friends dragged her along and she'd met Mario Van Peebles. And then somehow he had heard that she was in LA. So they must have kept in touch, or he must have kept in touch with her friends or something. Yeah. And he tracked her down.
Incredibly attractive blonde woman. Yeah, I can have your number.
So he'd come and they spent some time together, and he basically said to her, you need to be careful here.
Exactly.
Because it's not all what it seems. And of course it's not all what it seems, but...
And she said this bloke would have big parties and she'd be the centre of attention, and he'd just say she's amazing all the time, really build her confidence. Why is she so amazing? She hadn't done anything.
No, but she also said that the people who were invited, their wives were also really nice to her. And I kind of think it's because... even at the age of 19, 20, she's not an idiot. She's not just a bimbo. Actually, she's been reading psychology. She's been reading poetry and I think she can sit down and hold a conversation. I think she'd be thoroughly charming. But I also at the same time would think this guy's 30 years old. I bet he's not shagging her.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, she's still a kept woman one way or the other.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And he'd given her a Bentley and a driver and a Mercedes in case she didn't want the chauffeur, but she said she never didn't want the chauffeur.
Yeah.
Of course you wouldn't. You wouldn't want to not have a drink. Champagne's been thrown at you.
She did say that when Mario Van Peebles pointed that out to her, she realised that she'd been conveniently blinkered to what was going on. Because, of course, it's so nice to live in that luxury, especially if you're that young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get why she did it. But if anything, I'm actually amazed that she'd got out of it.
Yeah. With her dignity intact, got herself a totally unfurnished apartment, stuck a mattress on the floor.
Yeah.
And kept her self-respect. Good on her. All of that's a great adventure. And she survived that.
She does actually say that as she's getting more and more into the Playboy family, that some of the other girls are saying, oh, we're going to Hawaii with these guys. It's $25,000 for the weekend. And she's like, well, what do we have to do? Nothing. You just have to come and hang out. And she's like, no, you don't just hang out for $25,000. So she's wise to that, actually, and she doesn't go.
No.
So that is happening at the Playboy mansion. So she does have her head screwed on.
Yeah, she says because of her youth, she's not promiscuous now as an adult. She is obviously very wild within a loving relationship. And she's obviously had many of them.
Yeah.
But one at a time.
Well, her issue of Playboy comes out. She's on the front cover, looking amazing, in a blazer and a tie, and not much else, of course. And then she gets a phone call from a TV show called Baywatch.
Hey!
But she says it films miles away, can't be bothered, so she turns it down. Yeah. Obviously, that month she's inundated with offers because she's just almost like a debutante coming out to society. Yeah. She's being released to the world.
She's not an actor, though. It's crazy.
But it's a bit like Arnold Schwarzenegger getting on the Lucille Ball show. Maybe. But he was hired for the way he looks.
Yeah, they want her as a regular.
But they also need somebody in swimsuit.
Costume show.
But then she gets a cameo on Married with Children because they need somebody to do a pillow fight.
Yeah.
And then Home Improvement Call, which is a huge sitcom in America at the time, and it's much more local. So she goes and does that. And I didn't know that because I used to watch Home Improvement. And I'm sure I would remember her, so I must have stopped watching.
She wasn't Pamela Anderson, though.
She looked like Pamela.
Yeah, she does. But you wouldn't remember. Like I say, so many of those girls come and go.
It's true, isn't it? And actually, it's quite a generic look, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially for Hollywood. Even before Pamela, she didn't invent it like lots of people look. It's just the Western idea of female beauty, isn't it? But she says Tim Allen, the star of Home Improvement, actually flashed her in the corridor. And he just joked to her, well, I've seen yours, so I thought it was only right that you see mine. And she said, I felt very uncomfortable. Yeah. Because of course you would. Yeah. Just because
just a reminder that you've been naked.
Yeah, I didn't like that because I had always thought Tim Allen was all right.
Well, maybe he thought that was really genuinely fair.
Fair?
Yeah. So that, all the embarrassment's gone now. There we go. You literally, genuinely, I've seen yours so you can see mine. I don't know.
Anyway, Baywatch don't give up.
No.
They keep calling.
But she still said no. She only went to accompany her boyfriend at the time.
Yeah. Whose name I can't even remember.
I can't even remember. And he got the part and they were in it together, but it broke them up pretty fast. I couldn't even be bothered to Google which person it was because I don't care.
So tell me if you have any other information about Baywatch, considering it was such a big part of her life, which thrust her to global fame. Why does she barely talk about it in this book?
Well, I don't know, but I did years ago read David Hasselhoff's autobiography, and we will have to read it because I've forgotten it mostly. But I'm pretty sure it was David Hasselhoff himself that spotted Pamela Anderson.
Whilst he was reading Playboy with his cock in his hand.
Of course. Yeah, of course. On the set, probably.
Oh,
downtime.
dear.
Well, no, it could have been anything, though, couldn't it? But it probably was Playboy.
Yeah, it's Playboy. It's the only place he's been.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was him, but I'd have to double check that. He was really in charge of her, and they really did become good friends.
Right.
According to him, as I recall. She doesn't mention that. She doesn't even mention his name.
No, she says, I was on Baywatch for 4 years. It's all a bit of a blur.
Yeah, why?
That's more or less it.
That is right, yeah. She does say that there's a lot of fans of her and they would all gather around her tower all day, and it was quite hard to keep them back. I have been there.
Have you?
Yeah,
Been to
went
Baywatch Beach?
Yeah, me and my brother went and stood on
No
the
way.
tower and everything. Yeah, took
You
photos.
know, I do know that at the time it was the most widely syndicated TV show in the world. It had something like 1 billion viewers. But what I didn't know until I read this book was that some countries only took the episodes with Pamela Anderson
That's right.
in.
Yeah, so they had to put more ones with her in so they'd take more episodes. Amazing, isn't it? And also her Barbie doll, CJ, that was her character, outsold all other Barbies.
Really?
But she got no money from it because she was taken in at the time where she didn't really have any representation, so she didn't get any deals.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we have to fast forward 4 years because she doesn't really talk about Baywatch, but she's one of the most famous women in the world at this point.
She was happy in the sea. We know that much.
Yeah. And she's using her profile for her animal activism, her anti-fur campaigns on behalf of PETA and stuff. And then one night she goes out on New Year's Eve, having a few drinks with the girls, and a certain Tommy Lee comes into the bar. It's funny because we've read it from his perspective because we've read the Motley Crue book.
Have.
She's much more blasé about the whole thing, saying that she bought drinks for everyone.
Yeah.
And he licked her face, but he licked everyone's face because
Yes.
he so often said, if when you read his, it sounds like she sent him a cocktail and he licked her face. It's like, maybe from his point of view, that's what happened.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're all wrecked, let's face it. They're all absolutely off the heads.
Mind you, if I was in a bar and Pamela Anderson bought drinks for everyone, including me, from there on in, I would tell people that Pamela Anderson bought me a drink. Of course you would,
because she did.
Yes, yeah, she did.
Yeah. So he took it personally. Yeah, he went and licked her face, but he would have done that every other night of the week anyway.
Yeah.
But they had some intense spark. But of course, it's only sexual at this point. Well, I don't know. They had a pretty amazing relationship in the end.
Well,
yeah. After that night of New Year's Eve, all she would say is the hotel she was staying at, and her assistant's going, no. He's ringing all night next morning. She answers the phone and says, I want to spend 24 hours with you and then never see you again. Well, that's got to be like the most rock and roll, amazing thing any rock and roll man has ever heard. It's like the dream. There's no strings attached. It's 24 hours. And he went shopping to a sex shop, bought up half the place, and then couldn't track her down. 3 months later, he tracks her down, sounding quite sad and saying, oh, hello, can I see you now? And she was like, you can't, I'm flying to Cancun tonight. So he turns up in Cancun the next day. They spend 48 hours together. She stays another 2 days and they go home married.
Yeah.
She actually thinks he slipped something in her drink. Cause,
yeah, I know. He spiked her.
Yeah, she
when
remembers
he proposed.
going, yeah, of course I'll marry you. And then she woke up the next day going, yeah, this is still great.
Yeah.
Probably spiked her breakfast as well. And then they flew home on the plane. She goes, what's your surname?
She becomes Pamela Lee.
And she goes, we were so in love. It was just total love. And I'm like, definition of, it's some sort of cloud of something, but I'm not sure. Classically, I read this in Smash Hits when I was about 7.
Yeah.
In Greek, this is what I read, the 7 different words for love. And I thought, that's amazing. Because I would say, I love pickled onions. I love my cat. I love my parents. You know what I mean? Those are totally different loves.
Mm-hmm.
I love my shoes. You know, there should be more than one love. So she says that they were in love. It's a kind of love.
Whatever love means.
Exactly. Exactly.
So now they're a hot celebrity couple. They're pursued by paparazzi wherever they go. It's taken everyone by surprise that they're actually married. And their fame accelerates even further. Well, actually, he gets fame because I don't think he really had much fame before her, did he?
Tommy Lee's the drummer in Motley Crue, we should say. But drummers are never noticed. They're always at the back. So I guess it put him really on the map. It put him right at the front of the band, didn't it, basically?
Yeah, definitely. You name another member of Motley Crue.
We read their book, and I still can't. Nikki Sixx.
Nikki Sixx.
Yeah, it's a good name. But
Geddy Lee?
God, I've forgotten. But yeah, it really did. It really elevated his status massively. Way too much. Really annoying.
Well, he becomes an arsehole.
He does.
Because she's filming barbed wire.
Yeah.
And he just keeps turning up on set and causing lots of trouble.
Havoc. And then she's doing Baywatch again and he's coming to set there. If she's kissing anyone, they have to change the script quick when they see him coming. He's punching people.
Yeah.
He can't handle it. It's like we say, a lot of people can't handle that level of fame, and he cannot. And he's an alcoholic and drug-taking person anyway. Combination of that is just lethal.
You know, he wound her up so much, and she was so tired from filming Barbed Wire and Baywatch at the same time. She wasn't sleeping. One day she didn't turn up on set for Barbed Wire, and she's so entirely professional that people knew immediately something was up. Her driver couldn't get hold of her, so he got into where she was staying, and she was passed out on the bathroom floor.
Yeah, in vomit, because she'd had a bath and taken a load of Advil.
And washed it down with vodka.
Yeah, and it was the alcohol that had made her be sick because she didn't like it.
I mean, it's a good job she was sick.
Yeah, bloody is.
Because she may have ended up like another...
drowning in the bath. Yeah.
That's Tommy Lee, actually.
It is, yes.
He really created so many problems.
Yeah.
And do you know what? Then soon after that, actually, she found out that she had a miscarriage. Because one of the things that she's always wanted from a young age is a family.
Yeah, that's why she says she keeps throwing herself into these relationships, because she just wants to feel safe, settle down and have a family. And he wanted that too. The paparazzi are a lot to blame, honestly, for driving them mad.
Yeah, they really are. Eventually, they have a little boy called Brandon, and actually Pamela soon gives up all of her acting work, because she gives up Baywatch because she wants to settle down and make a family.
Yeah, she is one person who really did give it up for her kids, didn't she?
Yeah.
There's 2 boys in the end. They seem to be turning out all right. But
because of how she brought them up.
Yeah, she really was hands-on. Take him to school, pick him up, take him to, properly a mum. Didn't have a nanny, cooked, all that.
So they also have been having this big house renovated for their new family to move into. And they have a massive safe, she said, the size of a refrigerator. And one day they noticed that the whole thing has gone. It's been removed. Now, there are lots of builders and contractors on site. They never checked it every day because work was going on there. And they just guessed that it was probably stolen between 3 or 6 months ago.
It could have been anyone.
And they couldn't really remember what was in it. She says she remembered that the bikini that they got married in on the beach was in it. And then a few weeks later, she got a phone call from the editor of Penthouse, who said, "We have a videotape of you two having sex." And then they're like, "Oh, fuck, it was
And
in
she
the
said,
safe."
they never made one as such. They just filmed themselves a lot. So they'd done a sort of mashup of a lot of different bits in that tape.
And what's bizarre, of course, this predates almost every celebrity sex tape.
It really does.
And in fact, it's probably because of the notoriety of this sex tape, and it made so many people a lot of money, apart from Tommy and Pam.
Yeah, right.
I think people then, after the fact, after this tape, turned it into a career move.
Yeah, a lot of people still really didn't. I think Paris Hilton had one leak. Devastates people.
I think she did it deliberately, didn't she? You know, one of Kim Kardashian? Was her mum that did that.
Wow, well, what I do realise about them is that they're made on that. They are literally have done nothing but be slightly Bond people.
Really?
Well, I Googled them a while ago. My dad was asking me, why are they famous? And I said, I don't actually know. So we looked it up.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, they've done nothing.
Well, I don't think that's strictly true.
Originally, to get there. Once they're there, they've done a lot since. Yes.
But what's astonishing about, because this has never really happened before, when Pamela Anderson, obviously, and Tommy Lee tried to get an injunction to stop the tape because it's their property, it's their likenesses on the film.
Yeah, actually, they were very, very upset by it.
So when Pamela Anderson went for meetings with the lawyer of the person who held the tape, who somehow now has ownership of it.
They can't arrest them,
He's in the room with the lawyers, and they basically say to Pam, their argument is she has no right to privacy because she's been in Playboy.
Yeah. And they had naked pictures of her up in the courtroom or whatever.
To try and just...
Yeah, and in the end they dropped it because they just didn't want to put their kids through it because it would have lasted years.
Yeah, but people made literally millions. I remember, that's kind of like the birth of the internet. One of the first things that made the internet famous was that you could watch this. Do you know what? I've never seen it. Have you?
No.
There was a big drama last year made about it, actually.
Really? When it was early 90s, wasn't it? Yeah, it was early 90s. Yeah.
But anyway, this isn't helping their relationship. No, Tommy Lee is becoming really unstable.
I was just going to say, I've forgotten this. When she met Tommy Lee in Cancun, they got married within that 4 days. She was dating Kelly Slater, the world #1 surfer, who she described as absolutely gorgeous and lovely. It's just worth mentioning.
It's because we just read Dennis Rodman, and it's like when he was dating Madonna, he had a girlfriend.
Hedging your bets, isn't it? If it was a nice man, she would have dumped him for a bad man because she cannot make those choices.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
These people.
I know.
But Tommy is kind of going off. He was off the rails anyway.
Yeah, he went insane.
And after all of this, it's just been building up. And one night he actually attacked Pam while she was holding one of the kids. Yeah. And I think he tore her nail off, which caused a lot of blood and stuff. I think she called the police. He must have attacked her
worse than that as well, because he actually got put in jail for spousal abuse, so it must have been pretty bad.
Yeah, because she actually said that when it calmed down, she did not want to press charges, but it was beyond that because the police looked at her and said, it's not up to you at this point. We have to charge him with what he's done. Yeah. Yeah, and he went to jail.
Yeah. And they never stopped loving each other at all, because in fact, by the time, I think they exchanged a lot of letters and stuff. By the time he got out, they sort of got back together.
Well, they weren't allowed to. One of the conditions of his bail was a restraining order, and she used to go sneak over to his house and they'd make love in the bushes and stuff in secret. I bet that was fun. I know it's a terrible thing to say, but
but it wasn't reality. They stayed close like that for years, apparently, trying to. And she says, that's the love of my life, and it's not the fault of anyone who came after him, that I could never love anyone like I loved him. And it's irreplaceable.
Do you remember that she then went out and married Kid Rock?
Not really. Weirdly though, Maite Garcia, who married Prince, that was like unbelievably beyond the absolute utter fairy tale love of her life to the core of her being. And when she'd split up with Prince, and it absolutely broke her heart because she'd lost their baby, and it was unbelievable heartbreak, she got together with Tommy Lee.
Did she really?
Yeah, and that always seemed weird, because you'd look at him and go, I'm sorry, don't care how amazing he is, but he's not Prince. You can't replace those loves, the loves that are so passionate and so deep. Mm-hmm. You're looking from outside going, that's not the right person. But it's easy to say from the outside. No, Kid Rock. Then she says he's Kid Rock and then keeps calling him Bob.
Bob. Yeah, I know, it confused me.
He can't be Bob. He's not a real person. He's a legend.
Because she talks about... Did you say he's a legend?
Yeah.
Kid Rock?
Yeah, he's a legend, isn't he?
No.
I don't know much about him otherwise. I thought he was a bit of a legend.
Well, I was really surprised when she talked in this book about meeting him and having a romance, and then she talks about being good friends with David LaChapelle, the photographer, and he was her matron of honour.
Gay. It's worth saying.
Okay, when she said
a threat.
that he was her matron of honour, I thought, did she get married to Kid Rock? Then anyway, it turns out they did, but he's very jealous of David LaChapelle.
Yeah, you know why? Because they had a closer relationship and more of a soul meeting than Kid Rock and her did. And she only was really trying to replace Tommy Lee, because they're kind of two of a kind.
Yeah.
And so the real soulmate was David LaChapelle, so of course he was jealous.
I love when they went to the screening of Borat, the first screening, and people like Steven Spielberg and all the film industry were there. Pamela Anderson went with Kid Rock, because I can't remember this, but Pamela Anderson's actually in Borat.
I don't remember that. She's a cameoed in a lot of things, though. Probably that.
So she's in it, but it references the sex tape.
Right.
And she didn't tell Kid Rock because she wanted it to be a surprise that she was in the film. Anyway, the fact that she referenced the sex tape drove him crazy. He stormed out, and when she got home, he was smashing this big framed picture in the hallway, because he said, we always had this picture of you with David LaChapelle and you're taunting me. So he smashed it, and she says it's not her and David LaChapelle, it was Marilyn Monroe and Bert Stern. So Kid Rock the whole time had driven himself crazy at home.
Jealousy.
Because he thought the photo was of Pamela and David LaChapelle, and it wasn't.
No.
Oh my word, that's so funny.
So that was never going to work, and that was the end of that.
And then she gets herself a nice big house in Malibu, but it needs lots of building work done. And rather than live there, she buys herself a little trailer at Paradise Cove. So it's just her and the two boys at this point, who are still young, and they live a trailer
really
trash
small life. Yeah, and they're probably the happiest.
Yeah, well, it sounds like they are. And that's how those boys were brought up.
Yeah.
And she said they had a little golf buggy. They could go down and surf in the beach whenever they wanted. She just lived among the other families in the trailers
It's like
and
her
the kids.
upbringing.
And she would cook barbecues. It sounds, in Paradise Cove, mind you, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, it really does.
But I think that's why her kids have grown up really well adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
They were removed from the Hollywood lifestyle.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And they were just living on the beach and living in a trailer.
She does say that they went through a bit of a teenage thing and they went to therapists together and they're very much aware of their genetic history, basically.
Oh,
they had to work through it.
One of the kids actually checked himself into rehab.
He went off the rails for a bit.
But like at the age of 16 or 18, I think she said to him, do you want some money to go to college? And he said, no, I want to go to rehab.
Yeah, because they were really worried that they turned into their dad and they wanted to keep it in check.
I've never heard anything so grown up.
I know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it really scared them because obviously their dad, their granddad and their great-granddad. So that's their legacy and they don't want it to be them.
So they're getting to it before it gets
Pretty
to
sound.
them. That's,
pretty sound.
Yeah.
And they probably have heard of some of the stuff that's happened to their mum, plus that sex tape and everything, and want to be better men.
Wow.
Yeah, I really hope they are.
I hope they are. I've got no reason to believe they're not going to be.
Yeah. Because, at some point, Pamela Anderson was offered Chicago, the musical, and it's an absolute dream for her to be in that. She loves dancing. She'd done Strictly Come Dancing and done really well on it. And she loved Chicago, the musical. Loved everything about it. And she turned it down because it was a time when her kids needed her when they were starting a new school in Canada. That's incredible to read. It's probably a first for us.
Yeah.
Because they always take the job.
They always take the jobs.
Because, the kids will be proud of them one day. No, they need you now.
Yeah.
And she actually did it. She said no. And then 4 years later, it came back round and then she did it. Good on her.
Yeah, brilliant.
I never saw her in it, but it sounds like she was great.
I heard really good reports of her in Chicago. What I love about her time in the trailer is, of course, she befriended Vivienne Westwood.
Yes.
And then Vivienne Westwood turns up with her husband Andreas to visit because Pamela Anderson's like, come on over.
Yeah.
And they end up just hanging out and she doesn't have another bed. So they have a blow-up mattress. And
They're
Vivienne
all camping
Westwood,
together.
just stay there.
But we know how much they've roughed it all their lives. Because sometimes that whole delusion of grandeur is actually what destroys people because they forget who they are and they get all conflicted. So if you actually keep it real whilst being a star, maybe you don't get so messed up.
And Vivienne Westwood then used Pamela Anderson as a muse for quite a while, and she would be in her catwalk shows and stuff.
Yeah, anti-fur campaigns and stuff.
They have a lot in common, actually.
Yeah, they do. And then introduced her to Julian Assange because they were friends, and that sparked a friendship. She used to visit him when he was locked away in the MC.
Well,
definitely affair.
They were shagging.
Oh, they totally were.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Wow, Julian Assange is locked up in the
with
embassy.
Pamela Anderson.
And Pamela Anderson gets to visit and she's taking in champagne and stuff. And she says, it gets a bit frisky. Just tell us
very
you
sensual.
shagged.
Yeah, she's not saying it because she wants it to be all serious. And they talked about the world and she learned all this stuff. Bit Marilyn Monroe, cause with the Kennedys, because she had a brain too and wasn't allowed to it to be known that she had a brain. Yeah.
She operates on many levels, Pamela.
She does.
Yeah. I like her a lot. This book just, made me like her.
Yeah, it's very poetic, very spiritual.
I also like that she took 3 months out to be a magician's assistant in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So she's doing all the real fun stuff that her exterior allows her to do, but then she also does all the other stuff that her brain
soul searching
well.
and in adding knowledge all the time. She went to Paris for a while, learned French. She got involved with the refugees. She's really active in many different charities, not just animals, all sorts.
Yeah. She's a fully rounded woman, isn't she? Just like her breasts. We can't end it on that because I have so much respect for her.
I know.
But that is quite funny.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Thrift Shop Biography. We love making this podcast and we're absolutely thrilled that so many of you are already listening.
You could really help us out by leaving us a review somewhere, wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you could share us, tell your friends about us, or drop some links on social media. We have a Facebook page called Thrift Shop Biography, so make sure you come over there to hear about the episodes first and what else we're up to. Okay, see you next week. And if you're new here, there are loads more episodes now to go and listen in the back catalogue, so make sure you go and enjoy them. Okay, thank you very much.